stand up for what you believe is right? Do you stand up for something you believe in? Carine Kanimba and Paul Rusesabagina are people who permanently do it. Today I would like to share a story about two heroes, two political activists from Africa, from Rwanda. Carine and her father, her adoptive father. It was about 7 years ago when my daughter was doing her master's degree in Bologna, and she was studying together with Carine. And Carine shared her story with everyone in the group. In fact, my daughter and Carine became very good friends. And later on, I knew a lot of things about Carine. So Carine was born in Rwanda, in Kigali. She was born just 1 year before the most terrible genocide in Rwanda took place in April 1994. Can you believe it, that about 1 million people were slaughtered that time? Friends, neighbors just started killing each other. They used to live very peacefully with each other, and suddenly something happened to them. So how could a tragedy like this happen? Carine and she was 1 year old, and her sister was 2 years old, when in front of them, both their parents were killed. But they were extremely lucky. They were saved, and they were adopted by their aunt, Tatiana Rusesabagina, and her husband, Paul Rusesabagina. You might have seen the film Hotel Rwanda, and Hotel Rwanda actually shows his story. So he is Paul. He's not, he doesn't play there. He is shown there, he is portrayed there as Uncle Paul. Do you stand up for something you believe in, even if you risk your own life? Even if you risk the lives of your family members? Paul Rusesabagina did it. He risked his own life, he risked the lives of his family members, and he was a manager of that hotel, that besieged hotel, which is shown in the movie Hotel Rwanda, and he saved over 1,200 people. After the tragedy happened, he and his family had to leave Rwanda. It was not safe to stay there any longer. So they moved to Belgium, and of course they took Carine and they took her sister because they adopted them. And they spent some years in Belgium, but it was not safe for the family to be in Belgium. So they moved to the United States of America. And Paul was always a political activist since he left Rwanda. He was permanently talking about the regime in Rwanda. He was permanently criticizing the regime. In 2005, Paul Rusesabagina got the biggest award a civilian person can get from the President of the United States of America. This was the Presidential Medal of Freedom, 2005. 15 years later, he was on his way to a small African country called Burundi. And he was in Dubai, and he was going to catch another flight from Dubai, and he was kidnapped at that time. He was taken back to Rwanda. So he was accused of numerous charges on terrorism. Imagine, the man who had saved over 1,000 lives, the man who had got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, he was falsely accused of numerous things he had never done. He was almost 70 years old. He was 67 years old, and he was cancer survivor. He had a lot of problems with health. So Carine at that time, she moved back to Belgium. She moved back to Belgium, and after she moved to Belgium, it was a few weeks after kidnapping. Can you imagine? The family didn't know for 4 days where he just had disappeared. And afterwards, they learned what was there, that he was in Kigali. So Carine moved to Belgium. She wanted to help her father. She wanted to campaign in order to save him. And she wanted to do it from Europe, while her sister was doing it from Washington, D.C. And that was the time when I recorded my second interview with her. My first interview was recorded when she was in New York, and it was on the power of forgiveness. My second one was about her dad. So why did he do what he did? Why did he risk his own life in order to save people? Why did he adopt them? He didn't have to do it. What did he think about himself and his role in those events? And there were a lot of other questions which we discussed with her. She also told me, our father always told us, if you want to save a political prisoner, you need to talk about him. You need to make other people talk about him. And this is what we are doing right now. So they started leading a campaign which is called Free Paul Rusesabagina. They contacted numerous governments, including naturally the government of the United States of America, many other governments. They contacted numerous organizations. And I just couldn't believe what they were doing. Almost every day I went to her Facebook page. I put a lot of likes there. Sometimes I shared her posts. Sometimes I shared the posts of her relatives who were doing this campaign. Last year, it was just unbelievable. Her father was released. It was due to her work, it was due to the work of the family, it was due to the American government, and to many, many other things. So what we can see that fortune favors the brave. Last year, there was a book written about her, and she is just a little bit more than 30 years old. Now I have shared with you the story of two heroes who once upon a time have decided that we're going to stand up for what we think is our right choice, and they have been constantly doing it. And it is very symbolic that 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, in April, Paul Rusesabagina saved her and her sister. And almost 30 years later, she saved her father.